Hello there, I'm Camila Galeano. I'm going to talk about how to teach listening and a little information about the listening and how we as teachers can improve this skill in our learners. So the listening skill is the first of the four skills. It means that it is the first one we usually learn. Listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret the messages we hear, and it is very important for the communication process. It is an active process, and we make a conscious decision. We decide to listen and to understand the messages of the speaker. It requires attention, understanding, interpretation, focus, and concentration. Identifying the sounds of speech and processing them into words and sentences so we can actually understand them. When we listen, we use our ears to receive individual sounds, and in our brains, we process these sounds, these letters, the rhythm, the stress, and the pauses that the interlocutor makes, and then we use our brains to convert or manipulate and process this into messages that mean something to us. Listening is very important for communication, as I said before. Without this ability, we wouldn't understand, we would misunderstand the messages we hear, and the communication would just break down. There is one communication skill that we should learn. Listening is one of them, and we should actually master it. It is not the same as hearing. People used to maybe confuse these terms, but hearing is a physical process. It's something we perceive. We hear sounds, the sound waves that enter our ears, and it is a passive process, unlike listening, which is an active process. We don't need effort to hear. It is something that just happens. And as I said before, for listening, we have to decide and we need an effort. We need to concentrate and to focus. We need to pay attention, not only to the story, but also how the story is being told. Active listening is about perceiving more than words, more than just what the other person says. We have to pay attention to the body expressions, how the other person moves their hands, and the way, the tone, the pitch, the voice, the volume, the emphasis on the words the interlocutor or the other person is saying, how they say it. There are some barriers to effective, and I'm gonna talk about some of them. One of that barrier is that we often get distracted, maybe because we see something out there, something in the place we are happens, and then we get distracted and we stop listening to it and we just hear it. So instead of listening closely to what someone is saying, we think about unrelated things. So we don't fully listen the rest of the speaker's message. Another barrier is that maybe the message is not clear because the speaker is not expressing their ideas in an organized way, in a concise way. So we actually don't understand what the speaker is saying. Another barrier is that we don't pay attention. We don't As I said before, it is very important to pay attention to this because I can say, like, I'm happy, but I actually didn't mean it. I kind of say it in a sad way, and it means the contrary. I can use sarcasm, and the other person, maybe if they don't pay attention to the tone, they won't understand the thing that I actually want to say. So yes, let's pay attention to the tone. Another barrier is that vocabulary is not familiar. Maybe our English level is not that high, and the vocabulary the other person is using is very unfamiliar to us. When the vocabulary, we don't understand it, we can focus on the words we actually understand, and in that way we can convey meaning with what we have, with what we learn, with what we listen and understand. You can always ask also the other person if using the words we get to know, we understood. If this is not enough, you can ask the other person to say it in other words. So yes, and if you are listening to an audio recording and not a person, then you can replay it. You can play it again. You can always use the transcription if there is one, and yes, to better understand. Now let's talk about the principle for a good listening. We have first, prepare yourself to listen. We need to be ready. We need to focus on the speaker. We need to make sure that the place we are in is silent, and that we actually can understand and hear the other person's message. We need to pay attention and put other things out of mind. We need to focus on to pay attention to what the other person is saying. You know that the human mind gets distracted very easily, and focus on the moment. Let's live in the present. Uh, let's concentrate on the messages that are being communicated to us and remove distractions. Cell phone, the notifications, and the TV or something like that. Let's focus on what is being said. Another principle for a good listening is not translating. Try not to translate. Why? Because we need to make our brain think in English and get used to it. If we keep on in Spanish or in our first language, we won't get used to it. Get lazy. So it needs to English, and in that way you will not have to use your tongue, your native tongue, to understand the message. You won't need to translate it. You will need to think in tongue before saying something or understanding the message. And I know this is a process that requires time, but if you do it consciously, the connections in your brain will create like new roads. Let's call it like that. And you can think in English without using the first language. The third principle would be listening to the tone. The volume and the tone both add to what someone is saying. Both are very important to convey meaning. So the tone and the volume, help us understand the emphasis of the message of what it is, and try to understand the other person's point of view so we can understand. The fourth would be paying attention to keywords and key phrases, or also called the markers. When we speak, we usually tend to use them. It's like to emphasize what we are going to say. Maybe I can say something like, let's talk about the time we will meet tomorrow. I'm missing the word time. So it is because that's very important. Maybe let's draw conclusions. Maybe because I'm going to be very busy tomorrow. Maybe because I'm only available at 2 p.m. or something like that. So time would be very important in this situation. It is the stressed word, and it signals that it's time. Some words are important, that they signal importance by themselves. When we say issue, I'm gonna talk about that issue, or this issue concerns of pollution is very nowadays spoken, something like that. So when I mention the word issue, it signals importance. It signals like the focus, the theme, or topic I'm gonna talk. So let's pay attention to that. Other keywords could be concerns or points. I'm gonna point out this, this that concerns me. I can also use the phrase like the main point is the main objective of something like that. Or when I say on the other hand, is because I'm gonna introduce something. I'm gonna introduce a topic or something that is important for me or for the topic I'm talking about. In everyday conversation, we tend to use different markers, different keywords, and different phrases. We say like I guess, and after that I tend to use like the key part of my message. I tend to say it. Or when I say what I'm trying to say is, so I'm gonna talk about the important part. Let's pay attention to that. And an advice is that don't panic if you don't understand every word you hear, because as I said before, you can create meaning with the vocabulary you do understand. And always remember that if this is not enough, you can have if you're having a direct conversation with someone, then you can ask the person to repeat what they say. You can also tell them what you understood. And in that way, the other person would uh, acknowledge what you understood and let you know if that's right or if they actually meant something different. You can ask them to say it in a different way. And if it is about a recording you're listening to, then you can make use of the transcription, the script, or you can use dictionaries if you don't understand all the vocabulary, and it will help you to better understand and you will acquire new vocabulary. You can also repeat the file as well. Now, let's talk about how to guide learners towards a better listening. First, we need to instruct them with an easy start. Let's not make it very difficult. You can choose a short audio or a short video, because if you tell them to listen to understand a CNN news or a story or a movie right away, they will actually get frustrated and confused, and maybe they will be scared. So this is an advice. Let's consider as well the students' level. This is very important, because if you make them listen to a CNN news, maybe it will be very advanced for them. So let's keep that in mind. Not starting with something too difficult. The best type of audio or video they should work with at first would be something related to the topics they are learning in class. So consider the topics you are treating in class. Maybe if you're talking about the past participle, you want to make them listen to an audio that contains that structure. Repetitions get results. If you repeat it, they will actually learn in a better way. They will acquire new vocabulary. They will incorporate phrases and expressions and learn to correct the pronunciation and the intonation. Repeating, if it is necessary, let's think about riding a bicycle. When you start learning to ride a bicycle, you need to repeat it, and you need to do it several times before mastering the skill. So repeating also helps to incorporate and master the skill. It is important that they keep on working on this material before moving into something new. Let's pay attention to the students' progress, so we can actually know if they are ready to move on. They need to notice themselves as well, not only the teacher, but they will start to notice some improvement in their listening comprehension skills. They can also only listen, or if they decide, they can listen with the transcription and the guide with vocabulary, podcasts and audios. And these listening activities usually come with a vocabulary list or a guide, and these ones help a lot. So now the second one. Move towards something that's a little more difficult. It will always depend on your student's level and vocabulary, but this is a key for enhancement and progress. You can gradually start proposing longer listening exercises with a big part of familiar vocabulary and a smaller part of new words, so they can not remain with the same, but learn new things as well. And it can have also vocabulary and expressions, new expressions, so they can continue learning and expanding their language knowledge. A third advice would be considering the students' preferences. This is actually, I would say, the most important, because it will make them feel like interested, motivated. This is key for maintaining the motivation in class. Learning is way more meaningful when it is linked to emotions. When we feel something, when we feel excited, when we feel happy, or we have these emotions while we are having an exercise or an introduction to a topic, we will remember how we felt doing that specific activity, and we will try to, so we have to try, as teachers, we need to try to captivate the student's mind and ask them about their topics, about their interests, about what they like, what they don't like, so they would like to dig into that topic, and we will have them focused and concentrated into that. And I think that's all for this video. I hope you liked it. And these are the sources I used for this. And yes, thank you for watching.